there's a couple things we can do in terms of just finishing up some of these concepts. We're talking about running the macro. So some of the things we can do is, of course, we can make a shortcut key, right? You can also go through and create a shape. Another thing you might look at, though, is in terms of the shortcut keys, there is a couple ways to look at that. If you click on the macro button, and see, I think our absolute macro had some shortcut keys tied to it. Then you click on the word options, and then there's the shortcut key we added to it. It's Control A. So if you want to make changes to it or change the keyboard command to some other keyboard command, you can do that. And if you want to add the description or explain a little bit more what it's supposed to do, you can do that. So that's how you would get to this options here. So keyboard command is a key one. The buttons is another method of assigning to a macro. So you can create a macro button. Now you can go out to the internet and download anything you want. You can search for macro buttons or a specific thing like reset or whatever button. You can find all kinds of graphics buttons out on the internet that describes exactly what you're trying to use the button for. And then you can right-click on that object and assign a macro. So those are some of the commands you can use. So you can put pictures in there and go out to the internet and grab a picture and assign a macro to a picture, just like you can a shape.
I have a question with the pictures. So does that mean that, like if you were to send that macro over to someone else, that it's included in the attachment of the Excel file?
It would be part of the Excel file, yes.
Okay.
But it would be local in that file, of course, right? So we come over to Excel, and instead of using that button, I can simply go to Insert, Picture, Online Pictures, and I can type in the word Reset to see what kind of buttons I can find out there. And there's a bunch of reset buttons, see? So I'll choose this one here, and I'll insert that picture, and now I have a new reset button. So it's a graphics picture that I can use. I can right-click on that reset button, assign the macro to it. There it is. Now we have a new reset button. Reset. So if you want to shrink it down a little bit, you can do that. Great. So any graphics image you want. Now see up at the top of the menu up here, there's this quick access toolbar. This allows me to actually add commands to the quick access toolbar. So if I want to add a new workbook, for example, I click on the new workbook, and now I click on that, I can start a new workbook. But you can also use this to add macros. So go down to where it says, click on that little arrow right there, go to More Commands, and then choose the option down to where it says Macros. And there's the list of macros that we created. So if I want to add these absolute macro, I can simply click on that and press the word Add, and it puts that macro on the top up there. Now that doesn't look really good, so I'm going to modify it and actually put in, I think I'll make a little pig out of it. Here's a little picture of a pig. And I'll change the name so it's a little nicer looking. And say OK. And so you can simply change the name and then add a little icon and then say OK, and that will actually put that in the quick access toolbar. Say OK. OK. Now I have a little pig up here. If I go to a new page and I hit my little pig, it puts the address in and it says finish when it's done. All right? Start a new page, run my macro, and it puts it in there. So the idea of that is you can add macros at the top of your ribbon The other thing you can do is create an actual new ribbon up here. So we have this insert, draw, and all these ribbons up here. We can create a new ribbon on the top called macro. So let me kind of show you where that's at. Here's your quick access toolbar. Then here's the customized ribbon. So these are procedures, a step-by-step procedure to actually create a customized ribbon. So we're going to go to File. At the very bottom, we're going to choose Option. And under Options, we're going to choose Customize Ribbon. And you can see we have the Home, Insert, Draw. There's all of our ribbons in here. I'm going to click on the View Ribbon tab, and I want to insert a Macros ribbon right behind the View tab. So I would simply come down and click on View, press New Tab, and that actually creates a new tab right there. I can click on that new tab. Actually, I'm going to click on the group and add a new group too. So the groups are basically, as you see in your ribbon here, this is the font group, this is the alignment group, this is the number group. So you can actually put different groups in there. So I'm going to rename that group. I'm going to call that tab Macros. I'm going to rename the group. I'm going to call this one Accounting Macros. I'm going to call this one HR Macros. So you might have macros for different purposes, and you can specify the name for the group. Now we're going to add the macro to the group. So you come down and choose Macros in the ribbon up here. You select your macro, and then you add it to the group. My macros, I'm going to add those two macros to my accounting group. I open File macro to that group, and that's probably good enough. Then I will take and rename it so it looks a little nicer looking. Take a house out of that. My address. Say OK. On the next one, I'll find a little icon for that. It's my relative macro, the telephone on that one maybe. And on my personal, this is my open file macro. And I'll find something that relates to the open file. I don't know, but I'll say there's a folder maybe. And I would do that. So I would put little icons on my macros, clean up the name a little bit so it doesn't look so long. And then you simply say, OK. Now we have a new ribbon on top called macro. And there's my macro. So if I choose my relative macro, is it there? If I choose my open file macro, it opens the file. So you can create your own ribbons on top. If you have a lot of macros and you don't want to have to go find them, you can just put them up there. And usually, generally what I do is when I have a macro that's in sort of a final state, then I would put it in my ribbon. If it's kind of still in development mode, I would keep it in the development side. But then the minute I said, okay, this is working 100%, and I make no more changes to it, then I would put it in my menu. So sort of a release type thing. When it's in my ribbon, it's finished. It's ready to go. And that way it works from that point on. So it's kind of a little bit about the menu system of actually where do you put these macros? What do you do with them when you have 20 of them? Well, you can come up with different, you can have two ribbon systems. You can have macro 1 and macro 2. So you can have macro engineering and macro HR, and then have two different ribbons on top and have all their macros contained in that ribbon. Or you might use it by function or capabilities, cell manipulation macros or file related macros. And so you might have different sets of files and different style files that do different things. All right, sound good? Did you have the menu set up?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so there is some procedures that shows you how to customize that ribbon. So everything is written in the book, and so you'll be able to follow that. If you forget how, you can do that. There's another one called a form button. This was sort of like the old way of doing things. There is a form tool that is a button. Before, you weren't able to right-click on these things in the old days. So now what you can actually do on this is you can go up to your developer tab, and there is a insert button here, and there's a little button. See it? It's a form control button. And it's a little button that you just, it's not really clean. It's not really well formatted and that kind of stuff. It's hard to format it. But you just click on that button, and you draw it out here like this, and then you actually go, it drops right into the macro. You choose a macro, and then it puts the button out there. So this is sort of like the original way that macro buttons were created. But then they came a little later on, and they modified that. Do graphics images and allows you to insert or attach it to that. So just another button that's possible that you can use.